pen or anything?
Please, that'd be great, thank you.
How about a piece of paper?
We got you taken care of. Apparently, you're not the first one to come in. Thank you all.
All right, so we'll get started. It's about 7 minutes after 3, everybody. And I think the best way to get started in a meeting like this is to know who we're sitting next to. So why don't we start right to left and introduce ourselves and whatever else you'd like to say about yourself. Kayla, you're somebody, Kayla, so
I'm
you know.
sorry. My apologies. I'm Kayla Frederick. I'm the clerk. I will be taking minutes and running the meeting. There you go.
Ellen Lorraine McCabe, Assistant City Manager and Finance Officer.
Anne Marie Townsend, City Manager.
Winnie Key, 107 Kings Highway.
We hear you, Winnie.
Okay.
Carolyn Jones, councilperson.
Khalil Saliba, also councilperson.
Don Long, resident, 12 Church Street.
Then we have Tanya online.
Hi, Tanya.
Yes, Tanya Flickinger, 903 Cedar Street. We're not full-time residents. My husband and I, we live in Wilmington, but we own 903 Cedar, and it is a short-term rental property.
Thank you. We're glad you can join us. All right, the way we're going to do it today is just, you've all received a copy, and you haven't, so I'm going to do that for you.
Give me one.
Can you get her?
Did you post this?
Tanya.
No,
Okay, so Kayla is getting ready to email you the document, and
Okay.
Kim, you can have one as well, if you'd like.
Great,
It's-
thank you.
No, it's a review of the charge.
It's the task of the charge of the committee and the members. So, Aaron, if you want one.
Yeah.
Thank you. You know, for Tanya's purposes, maybe we could just read it.
Yeah, we'll do that. We can do that, too. While you get it. All right, I'm going to just read. All right, the city is aware that there are a considerable number of residential properties within the city, and the city currently collects a gross receipt rental tax of 5% on all residential properties. In the recent years, it has been noted that many of the residential rentals are being rented on a short-term basis. Now, while short-term residential rentals are a trend nationwide, it's been noted that these types of rentals can result in the need for expansion of city services. The Ad Hoc Committee on Short-Term Rentals, which is us, shall consider what city services are being impacted by the short-term rentals. These services include trash removal, recycling, traffic, parking, and police. The committee when we finish, make recommendations to the mayor and city council regarding possible changes to the GRTT and related regulations and services. And we'll determine today when we think we'd have to finish this project. You know, we had a date down of June 20th, but that wasn't realistic. Okay, now the recommendation shall include possible zoning options to help manage the short-term rentals, possible need for additional regulations to manage short-term rentals, possible need to differentiate the GRRT rate for short-term rentals versus long-term rentals, and the possible need to revise the licensing fees and requirements for short-term rentals. Now, a couple of things we want to leave here with today is, this is our first meeting, you know, we're all going to get acquainted with one another, and one of the things I want to establish is a period of time and when we will meet, because it's important. I'm a person who doesn't believe we should leave every 3 or 4 weeks or something. What I would like to actually do is have us meet every other week, okay? Now, if that's a problem for somebody, can you let me know right away? But if you have your calendars out, I think what we can do is start with trying to come up with a date that sort of satisfies all of us. And the time, I mean, is 3 o'clock, is this a good time for everybody right now, 3 o'clock?
This is great time for me.
Good. How about you, Tanya?
Depends.
Depends?
On what day?
Okay. What's today? Today is Monday. How does Monday sit with people? At 3, wait a minute. No, we have to worry about our
Tuesday.
own meetings, but they're at night, so
What about
that's okay.
Tuesdays? The only reason if people do long weekends.
Yeah,
Oh, good idea.
and you would know that, right?
Possibly.
Okay, so how about Tuesday, starting with
May 31st would be 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
May 31st. Anybody? Is that okay?
Are we talking about on Tuesdays at 3 o'clock, or,
Whatever time.
I'm good, whatever time we can come up with.
I mean, there's a decent chance on a lot of Tuesdays. I can probably do 3 o'clock, but it would be remotely.
Oh, that's okay, you can do Zoom. And that's another thing.
Well, do you want another day? Let's do another day.
No, I mean, I just, I can go, for Tuesdays, I would prefer mornings, that's all.
Okay, Tuesdays is
Yeah,
good for me.
If we're gonna do Tuesdays.
I can do mornings, how about you?
Tuesday's not good, the 31st. Excuse me. But every other Tuesday should be fine.
Oh, okay, so then, morning?
Tanya, what is your preference in terms of day or time?
I was just going to ask, do we know how many total of these we're going to have? Like, is
Not
this
at this
something that's going
point.
to go
I
on
think
for
I'm
2
just-
months, 6 months? Just trying to decide how many Tuesdays I need to.
No. I'm inclined to think that we want to end it, well, let's talk about the period of time when we want to end this and present it to the mayor and city council. All right, this is May, July, I came up with July, Khalil said that was too soon.
I think you're looking at September.
All righty.
I think September too.
I
I
mean,
want to get through the
That would be
season.
my,
How about, right,
Let's get
exactly,
through the
let's get through
season
the
and
season.
then tackle it after.
How about September, Tanya?
oh, I figured we'd be tackling it throughout the season.
We are going.
No,
In more ways than one.
So
Whatever
we're
you
thinking
all want.
about
I'm-
6 to 7 meetings?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, and I think, so just from the perspective of timing, if we do want to make some changes to the licensing and the tax rate, we would need to make sure they're in place by the end of the year. So that's why we don't really
We
have the
can't drag it
option
on.
of not working
If we
on
want
it.
to have it effect next year.
Right. So that's kind of, we would really need to have it in place by like November to be able to share something with council by the end of September, have council act in November so that we can get stuff out when we send out renewals.
Yeah, if there's going to be any change to the rate, then I think the sooner the better for rental agencies to know that so they can inform their property owners to make the consideration for next year's rentals.
So we shoot for September with a little leeway in case we have to get into November. All right, so let's set our first meeting. You can or can't make Tuesday, the 31st?
I know.
Can you do it by Zoom?
No, I'm going to be flying that day.
Okay.
Wanna try Wednesday?
Following week?
It doesn't get better when you push it forward.
You're right.
It really doesn't
Would
get better.
Wednesday work for you
Pick a,
guys?
what day's good for you? Wednesday?
Wednesday's typically not a good day.
No, we have a workshop already on Wednesday.
Okay.
That starts at 9:30.
Monday or Tuesdays, I mean, just for me personally, I think are probably best.
Okay, well, Monday's Memorial Day, 30th, so we won't be doing that.
No, but
What if we did Monday the 6th?
To start? Mm-hmm. How does that look?
I'm out of town for a week.
Okay.
So I would miss both of those meetings, or either of those meetings.
Okay, I think what I'm going to do then, because I don't want to lose that much time, is I think I will have the meetings, but I think what I'll do is just make sure that you get the information that we're getting and get your input, because if I put it off, then I'm going to end up just rolling. So I think that's the best way to do it. We'll keep you informed of what's going on, and so that you can respond back to each one of the things we're working on at the time. Because the way I see it, I think, given that we have 4 or 5 charges, it'll probably be that we go after it with one at a time, and then see how that works, which means you'll see what it is before time, have plenty of time to even write in before if you'd like.
Okay, sounds good.
Everybody okay with that? Okay, so we're going to actually start on the 31st. And we're going to use the time of, Winnie, what's good for you? 'Cause
Well, we can do morning on the Tuesday, because I think that works about better for you. So mornings are fine as well.
okay, how about 10 o'clock, 31st?
Okay.
Okay.
That works.
Works for you, Tanya?
Yes.
Okay, so let's start there.
And assuming you're going
I don't
every
have
2
anything I
weeks
can't miss.
Yes.
from there? Okay.
Yeah, so take yourself,
Carolyn, will they be 60 minutes or 90 minutes?
I don't get carried away with meetings, and I don't run meetings longer than an hour.
Okay, that would be great.
No, I'm not good at that. All right, so I'm going to,
Oh, you're right, I am out of the office.
Yeah, you are.
on the what?
The 31st.
Yeah.
Oh, you better Zoom then.
Oh, Lorraine can take care of it.
I'm sure. Okay. So that's the 31st, the 14th, the 28th. And just keep going.
Tuesday, first at 10. Correct. I'm just trying to put it on the calendar.
No, you have it.
And
And then every other.
then Tuesday, the 14th. Somebody
So
didn't
it's
like that day?
Every other Tuesday at
Yes.
10 a.m.
Yes, every other Tuesday at 10 a.m. till we finish, and meeting won't be any longer than an hour. Maybe
14th.
shorter, depending on what we're working on.
And then the
And then-
28th.
And one of the things I want to do, since several people were interested in this committee, is I'm going to research and see if I can find those emails that I received from people that had an interest. And whatever we work on, we'll make sure that they have the same thing to work on so they can act as a resource as well and have input on what we're doing. Okay, now I didn't intend this to be a long meeting, just simply to tell you what we're going on. That, anybody have any things they want to bring up or talk about in the beginning of this, so that when we do start, we start on the same sheet of music? Because we're going to start with the first thing we have, which is zoning options to help manage short-term rentals.
Okay, can I suggest that we not talk about zoning options at the first meeting because,
You won't be there.
well, and also with Don not there, the zoning.
right, he's not the first
The zoning issues relate largely to things like parking, and things that I think Don is going to want to definitely participate in discussion on. Would you agree?
Good point. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, good. See, she's looking
so-
out for you already. No one needs better than all of us. What did you
I mean,
suggest?
I guess, if you, do you want to focus, I'm trying to think. So I feel like one of the meetings needs to, before we talk about zoning options, we need to have the discussion about what are the issues that residents who live near short-term rentals are experiencing, because then that leads us to how you get to the zoning options. But again, I do think that with Don as somebody who's here to represent people who live in the community, we want to do that when he's available.
The other thing that I think, I love what you just said on behalf of, you get one thing and then everything else will be
Right.
like a domino and it'll fall in place. I think the most important part that I see are to start to tell people that if you're going to rent in Lewis, the fees do have to increase, because that's what everyone that I'm seeing in the communities around us, they're increasing. And then we start with, okay, that gives you an opportunity whether you want to rent your house or you don't. So if we have and I know that's a,
Well, so I guess here's,
Fees are important.
here's a thought. Is 2 weeks enough time for us to have staff pull together? What do the other communities along the coast have for their licensing fee for short-term rentals and their tax? And we can look at that, and we can look at some that are non-coastal, but I think this is those communities that are not on the coast haven't gotten their hands around it yet. We could also look at other resorts in the region. Pardon?
I was gonna suggest that we
yeah.
just look at Delaware.
Right.
maybe Virginia and New Jersey
Right,
as well.
so we could have staff look at some of that stuff, and be able to present to you what we find. And also how and whether municipalities differentiate between how they treat their long-term rentals and short-term rentals,
It
and
makes a
what that
difference.
time frame is.
Right.
Because those are some of the background pieces I think you're gonna need.
In order to get the ball rolling, because a lot of people say, well, if this fee is going to, if we're going to get charged this amount of money, then you know what, maybe I don't want to have this as an investment house. Maybe I'll pull it back and I won't be a rental. You'll see a difference.
Right.
So I think getting your fees out there to people, and then we work around that.
Well, I don't think anybody here knows your background, and it would probably help since you're given the information on
You
this
are
stuff.
so kind.
No, I'm not kind. I'm just simply getting information that I need. It's not about kind,
I
but
was the mayor of Henlopen Acres, so it goes back to, that was a very small town. And in the small town, we actually tried to regulate. A lot of people were buying $2-3 million homes. Some were saying, these are my retirement homes, these are my vacation homes. And then the other ones were saying, I need this home to be an investment so I can pay for it. So everybody had a voice. Totally different dynamic because we're so small. This town is big. But our voices were all heard. When we had a meeting in Henlopen Acres, the voices were heard. So that the first thing that we really did find out is, you know what, if our fees were out there first, then everything else follows suit, because then you have people coming in and saying, well, you know what, that's not going to be a great investment for me. I don't know that I want to be slammed on this and slammed on that. But it's all about the money today. And as we go through these hard times of, inflation, I think there's going to be a lot of hardships. So we have to consider the side of how high do we go on the fees, because a lot of these people have hardships right now. I'm hearing it left and right. We bought our houses on the shore. Now we're not sure we can afford them. I think it's a really big topic.
thank you for
Tanya?
sharing.
I'm sorry, you're running the meeting, but I just always worry about the people on Zoom.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'm perfectly okay with that. Go right ahead. Tanya, you were saying.
I'm Kim.
Oh, excuse
Well, no, I was
me. Not you,
thinking
Kim.
Tanya
Well,
because-
Tanya's got her hand.
I'm sorry. I'm worried about the person behind
Other
me
Tanya?
who's in front of me.
Okay. Okay, let's start this all over again. Since, Kim, you're looking right at me, go right ahead. You had your hand up.
Okay, I understand.
Say who you are so people
I'm
have an
sorry.
idea.
Kim Avazian, I live at 312 Pilot Town Road. I'm a full-time resident. With the exception of 2 years when we went on sabbatical and we rented the house out and did everything that we were supposed to do at the time, whatever those regulations were. I listened to your preamble, your sort of introduction about some of the issues, and I just want to voice my concern. You describe this, well, let's look at the different communities along the coast and everything like that, and, the resorts, et cetera, and see how they're doing it and what they're doing. In my opinion, those are false comparisons, because what we have here is a historic town that has historic homes that have been there for hundreds of years. My house has been there for over nearly 200 years now, and that's a young one for some of the old houses. And we don't have any protection from the short-term rentals that have been purchased for investment, for whatever. I have, at one point, had renters on either side of me who were partying like it was no tomorrow, and I resented that immensely. Whereas within the city of Lewis, at the reserves at Pilot Town and some of the other neighborhoods, they have deed restrictions that prevent short-term rentals. So the most vulnerable part of the city, vulnerable in the sense that you cannot rebuild a 200-year-old house. You cannot restore the unique nature of the historic district of Lewis. Once it's gone, it's gone.
And that and that's part of Don's representation on the committee.
Well, I can
So
only echo him or say my own
Right, but
experience.
he's not going to be here at the next meeting, so in terms of talking about what the committee would review for the next meeting, that's where I think when he brought up fees, and the
To try to
fees are
slow
where
it
we
down.
would look at the fees of other municipalities, and again, not limited to Delaware, but I think when we get into those community character issues, that is very much the perspective that Don is bringing to the table, so it's important that we have that discussion at a meeting where Don's here.
Well, I understand that, and I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in
Right.
before, I
Yeah,
don't
sure.
know what's going to
Right.
happen next
And
week.
I think you made really valid points about the historical side.
Yeah.
Because we are a specialty town.
Yeah.
And that's what's so charming. That's why people are moving here to retire. That's why people pick our town to live in, because it's a small community, even though we are a city. I hear you loud and clear.
Well, I mean-
And we can't let it get out. It can't, and this is the committee that Caroline's trying to say, we have to protect, and we have to be very vigilant to the voices that come here. I agree.
I just felt like what I was hearing was putting the cart before the horse in, let's talk about the fees, rather than let's talk about whether we should even have short-term rentals in the historic district.
Well, so, and I think that really is more of when you get into talking about zoning, there could be locations in the town where short-term rentals aren't appropriate, and that would be part of the discussion of the committee. I mean, one of the limiting factors, and you and I have just had plenty of discussion about this before, so, one of the other uniquenesses of the historic district is it was mostly built before we had cars, and therefore you didn't have off-street parking requirements. And Don has dealt directly with some of the consequences of people renting out to multiple families and nowhere to park. So it could be that there's parking requirements if people are going to have short-term rentals. But that's a very detailed discussion that Don's perspective, that just needs to be a meeting where Don's here. So that's the main reason I think that we're here to talk about short-term rentals, is because we're seeing so many communities where there are conflicts.
Well, I agree 100%. I'm also a little worried that if you're planning only a few months, short months of these meetings, these are complicated issues that will take more than, in my opinion, more than a few months to resolve.
Yes, but if we want to have an effect on next year, we have a time frame in
Well,
which to do it, Kim.
I understand, but it may be another year or following year.
Well, we will
Well,
find
no-
that out.
So,
I would think by September, if we think that
Right.
we still need a lot of work and we haven't explored all the different options, I think we'll make that determination. I think the goal, correct me if I'm wrong, Carolyn, is to have something, but,
No, it is.
but I mean, I think if we're not prepared and it's a half-baked proposal.
We don't do half-baked. We will
well,
definitely
and
cook
you
it.
might be able to split it, because
Uh-huh.
again, what's important to be ready by late this year is the fee and the tax information, because that is something that gets passed on. So you could, and again, we can figure this out as we get to September and see where we are. You could do something on the financial side of it this year and continue to work on the zoning pieces. And
Yeah,
I
that's
think-
true.
As long as it's done properly.
We'll
as
just
long
keep
as it's
coming
done
up
thoroughly.
with these kind of things, Kim, so that we don't mess up. Thank
All right,
you.
I just want to make,
No,
No.
I'm glad you came.
No, we're with
I
you.
hope you do come all the time.
Yes.
Really, I do. Because if it's not for you or anyone else that's going to be sitting there, we need your help. And I know, I don't think any of us are afraid to listen.
Not
I
at all.
love to listen, because that's how I'm going to get our answers.
well,
And
and I
it-
love to talk, so that's okay. But thank you for
Well,
hearing.
why didn't she?
And just to follow up on Kim's point about us researching other comparative resort towns, I think we can just simply I think there will be value in a lot of that, but we should make sure that some of those have historic districts.
Well, we could certainly
And
look at
understand how they-
Cape May,
Yes, you
St.
could-
Augustine,
Sag
Florida.
Harbor.
Right.
Look at
Charles,
Sag
maybe
Harbor.
Charleston.
Sag Harbor.
Charleston, South
Oh,
Carolina,
perfect,
yeah.
right.
Oh, right,
Yeah, so-
Yeah,
right.
because they all have historic districts,
Right.
they're all
Yes, they
treated
do.
differently. So I think the goal of that is simply to determine best practices
Yes.
and how, have they been effective or have they not been effective? But, like, obviously in the historic district, there are a lot more concerns about off-street parking, for example, than there have been on the beach side.
Right.
with Short-term rentals, so.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it's a great point, Kim, and I think we've often, or some people refer to Lewis as a resort town, and I've never thought of it as a resort town. Not like Rehoboth or Bethany. And I hope we can keep that, maintain that piece of Lewis that's been so important to the history.
Historic, absolutely.
So one
Town that
thing,
happens to have a beach.
I would have to say and argue that I believe Lewis is quickly becoming a resort town. I think there may be folks who wish that maybe it wasn't, but I think this committee needs to be grounded in reality, and I think it certainly is becoming a resort town.
I agree with you because.
I mean, walk down, 2nd Street in the middle of February on a cold night and look at how crowded it is. Those are not all full-time residents.
But being a resort town isn't a bad thing. It's about stopping and I'm going to use Rehoboth, and I'll probably get really nailed for this, but I think Rehoboth is so far behind the 8 ball, and they're trying to change it back to the way it used to be. They can't catch it, they can't get it. There's no way. They cannot.
Can't turn the clock back.
They
No,
can't turn the
it's
clock back.
impossible.
I don't want to get where Rehoboth is. My opinion is, I want Lewis to stay the quaint town. I'm born and raised, I'm a BB baby, so I get it. I've seen the change like no other. I don't want to see this town get so air-imbued that we can't change, we're not going to enjoy our homes. Because I have another community that I've seen, and it's so unenjoyable. And it makes you feel like, wow, do I want to stay? I don't want anybody to feel that in this town. Because this town is probably, in my opinion, the best first little town of the state. It is the best. And I don't know, I think we're all on the same page. It is becoming a resort. It is, but we got to slow it down.
so this is part of managing how it becomes a resort. And managing, I mean, if we don't manage change and change just happens, then you're not controlling your destiny, and I think that's.
It's very proactive. It is. This is going to be a good thing. It is.
So Ellen Lorraine and I just had a sidebar, and I had another thought. One, we had gotten a proposal from a company, Granicus, that could provide a consultant to work with us. So I guess one question is that something that you all think would be beneficial? Because especially if we're trying to move relatively quickly, they would have the research at their fingertips and things like that. If that's the case, then do we want to push it back a couple weeks so that we can get that on board?
I saw that in our email about Granicus. I was going to ask you
So,
about that.
Yes, so that's, I don't think that we can,
Is there a heavy cost to it?
it was
Was it 10?
10,000?
I think so.
$10,000 or something?
For them to consult?
Is there a proposal on what that consulting would involve?
We do have a proposal. Do you have it handy? We're going to look.
We could even update that and.
Yeah, we would want to get it updated from them. I have so much junk mail from them, it's hard to.
Seeing it? Yeah.
So, just,
Like our host compliance stuff. I don't think I got the
See if I still-
proposal.
I have Granicus
You do?
events this week's virtual training, but
Oh,
I don't think I
that's-
have the other
Yeah, I
one.
don't think I've got I don't think I have the proposal.
Well, let's just,
we'll look at it. That's a cost benefit analysis as to how much time it's going to take from our staff versus what.
Yes, what they will do
produce
for
and
us.
what their cost is,
I mean, is this something we should consider, everybody?
I mean, I love, in my opinion, I shouldn't say I love, I like having people come in and tell us what they've experienced to help us with our neighbor here. I don't want to see us not do it right. I want to do it right.
Well, we're not experts.
I know, and they might,
Because
since they've gone around and they've been consulting.
Exactly.
I'm always, wealth of knowledge to me is the most important thing.
One thing that they have said to us in the past, because again, Granicus owns Host Compliance, and that's the company that scrapes all of the virtual platforms to find all the unlicensed and to make sure that people are actually paying what they're supposed to pay.
And we use them now.
Yes, so we use them for that.
Okay.
And they have said, there is no, I asked about model ordinances, and they said there's no model ordinance. You really need to work with the community because, to both of your points, each community has different needs. If we were Rehoboth, we'd be looking more at the financial end, I'm assuming, where here we're really looking at how do we manage what is already happening, but make sure that it keeps in balance with the community, which, again, is a different.
Well, let's do a cost on it and find out what it would be. And because
Because they work for us, maybe they'd give us a discount already?
possible, if anybody can get it, Ellen
I'm
Rain
assuming
can.
that it's had the discount built in.
If
I'm
anybody
always
can get it, she will. She's already thinking that, right?
Okay, good.
So,
No, it's a good thing. I'm so glad you're here. I am. I am glad you're here.
Okay, well, that sounds
so
like a
I guess
great-
the
great
question
area to
is it worth starting the discussion of fees before we get to the
go. No, the
community
the
character
question is,
issues
given
are-
where we just went a few moments ago, besides this fly,
I know, it's driving me crazy.
then I think we get information on this first.
Okay.
And that'll tell us how to move forward. What do you think?
I mean, do we all agree that even though we
Right.
can do our own legwork on some of these communities, like Sag Harbor has a historical side to it too. I mean, we can figure out where their districts and how they handle each little individual borough there.
We should do that aspect of it,
Yep,
yes.
yep. I think we could do that. And what's another historical town on the coast? Give me
Well, Charleston, you said.
Charleston.
I mean, that's-
Perfect, perfect.
Savannah,
St. Augustine.
A mystic.
St. Augustine.
St. Augustine,
Let's do
absolutely.
4 towns, so we
Yeah.
don't get too confused.
Okay, let's do St. Augustine.
Charleston,
What's the North Carolina one?
Sag Harbor.
Sag Harbor, that's New
I mean,
York.
Cape May's right across the bay. It would
Cape
seem
May.
silly not to include Cape May
Right,
just because
right.
they're the closest one we have.
And they're
True,
historical. yeah.
true, there's Star,
That's a good, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's good.
So we'll do 4 for now,
Okay.
and then when and if we use this consultant, then they're gonna come in and say, well, you know what, we're gonna take a look at these 4 and take a look at your town, and that's where that'll come into
What
play.
do you would say, Kim?
The only thing I was going to say is, we have a couple who live on Second Street who are exiles from Annapolis, who would give you perhaps some insight as to what has happened to Annapolis, which is a historic town not too far away.
They here full-time?
Yeah, they're here full-time.
Good.
So,
Were they anti-rentals?
anti-what?
Anti-rentals?
They're business people. I mean, they spent 40, 50 years as business people in Annapolis. Larry Vincent, do you know Larry
No, I
Vincent and
don't.
Joyce Chemical?
I know the name.
Yeah, and they have a great deal of knowledge
Well,
about.
tell them to get involved here.
When did they move? They certainly bought their house at least 12, 13 years ago. And they've been living here, I think, full-time most of that
Oh,
time.
they sound like someone we can use.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
for
it's
sure.
just another perspective, actually a more informed perspective than mine, because I've only lived in Lewis for 35 years and nowhere else. But they've seen what can happen to downtowns and of historic towns. And there's probably good things, as well as bad things. So that's.
Talk to them, Kim, and tell them about us and
I
see if
will.
they get
I
involved.
will. I haven't seen Larry recently, so
Okay.
I will ask if he can knock on the door and just see if
Absolutely.
he can.
Or anyone else you know like that, it'd be fine.
You can attend our next meeting.
We
Yeah,
did have a hand up and there's something in the
Is there?
chat. But I don't see a hand up now.
I don't either.
And I just can't read that screen.
I'm sitting on it, can't see it.
Values.
Can you see it?
Thank you, Winnie.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, it says, "Thank you, Winnie Key, for speaking about preserving," can you read it?
Preserving the character and core values of Lewis, getting in front of these issues is critical. Thank you, Councilperson Jones, for your intent to get things moving along in a timely manner. We do not have time to waste on this issue. And that was written by Deborah Evalds.
Oh,
Sorry if
Deborah,
I
yeah.
mispronounced your name, Deborah.
Okay. Anybody else up there? Behind me? Is that it, Emery?
Oh, there's a hand raised.
Because I can't see.
Is that Frankie Bradshaw's hands raised?
Yes.
Go. Yes.
Okay, yeah, it's me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, following up on what Kim, this is Frankie Bradshaw, 111 Bradley Lane. Following up on what Winnie and Kim said, can the consulting firm do something to get information from affected neighborhoods, individuals, either do a survey or door to door or something like that, to help get information on how this is affecting them, other issues, because I think that it's important to get the issues up front so that you know what you're dealing with, so that it may be that that's a completely separate point of view that has nothing to do with monetary issues. That's all.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, well, given what people are saying, it's apparent that we won't be just doing 2 weeks every 2 weeks because we said so. I think we'll start with getting this information and coming back to the table with something substantive to work with. So,
When do you come back from vacation, Don?
I can be back for the 14th meeting.
Okay.
okay, why don't we shoot for that date for the next meeting? What do you think, Ellen Lorraine, in terms of getting this stuff from somebody? We'll be able to get anything in terms?
Yes, we're going to get started on it and obtain what we can, and then we'll just keep you updated on where we are.
Perfect. Anybody else on anything?
So it's June 14th at 10
Yes,
o'clock?
we're going to do the June 14th.
o'clock.
Ellen, I have some other suggestions.
meeting.
Durango, Colorado,
Okay.
and Aspen are two good cities to look into. They've already passed, changed their zoning, especially Durango, as maybe a model, or at least something we could gather from their.
Okay.
And a lot of
Can I ask,
research is.
is this limited? Is this conversation going to be limited just to the city side of Lewis, or are we looking at rentals across all of Lewis? Are we looking at the beach as well?
It's
Oh,
everything.
it's everything. It's
So,
everything.
so my only concern with, although I believe a lot of these comps are comparable to the city side of Lewis, I think they are not comparable at all to the beach side of Lewis. So if we're looking at both sides, I think we need to look for some comps for the beach as well.
Well, so I think what it could end up being is that there could be examples of how to manage it in the historic district, and our result could be managing it this way in the historic district and a different way on Lewis Beach where the issues are different. I think certainly any fees or taxes would be, wherever the short-term rentals exist. I mean, one thing that and this issue keeps coming up in so many different contexts, but the issue of housing for the workforce is very intertwined with the short-term rental thing, because short-term rentals also, that takes housing inventory out of the ability for people to rent it, and it drives up the cost of rental housing. So But again, I don't think there's any thought by anybody in Lewis that there would be we're not allowing it anymore. I mean, certainly on the beach, it's a big part of the economy, right? So, and it's a matter of how do you balance it with the other interests.
I think just to address what Tanya just mentioned, I don't think we're looking at a one-size-fits-all approach here. I mean, if not, we want to avoid that because
Right.
we have unique characteristics of the town that, particularly in the historic district,
Right.
versus other parts of the town. So
And I think that's why zoning comes into play.
Sure, and we can
Because
look at
in
it.
zoning, you can do things like require off-street parking spaces, you can treat one zone differently than another
I
zone.
think R2 would be treated differently than R3, for instance.
Right, right.
And the square footage really is important, I believe, for the historical side, because most of the houses that are on these lots, they're just like 60 by 80. And we have to look at the occupancy, which is a huge thing for historical. Because one, where our roads can't carry the parking, and then the square footage of the homes can't carry 24 people like they're doing in Rehoboth. It just can't. But the beach is the
whole
different
different-
factor.
yeah.
You have the big houses that can carry 24 people and have 6 cars in the driveway.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
So it
because-
will be done probably by boroughs, or not boroughs, but I apologize, but by
zoning
district.
districts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Absolutely. It's a good point, Tanya. Thank you. Okay, so everyone recognize that our first meeting then will be June 14th,
Okay.
which will give Ellen Lorraine and Anne Marie's staff time to pull together what they can for us. And I think what we'll do is get it out to you before, so you have time to look at it, and then we'll come in ready to work. I think, anything else we left out, somebody, because this is the time to think about it, and then we will come back with our sleeves rolled up and ready to work.
I think it's a good start.
Okay. That be the case, we're finished for now. And I thank you all for your time, and I look forward to getting back to you on 14th and getting our stuff going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed, Kim. Actually, I'm going to put it in my phone, okay? This way I got it for good. I'll write it down first, give me.
What were the towns that were, St.
And I
Augustine, Sag Harbor?
Charleston,
Livingston, and
Cape May.
I know your last name,
And
just don't know
and
how to spell it.
Savannah's another one.
That's a good one, too. Might as well throw it in the mix.
As in Victor.
And
Oh, V.
Don mentioned
Yeah.
Durango and Aspen.
And
Aspen, yeah.
Aspen.
Yeah.
There's that Z.
AYVAZ.
I-A-N.
Vazy and IAN.
Yes,
Good girl.
all right.
I know where you're over there, just give me a number.
Okay, number is 302
Mm-hmm.
542
Percent.
0102.
I'm going to use you as a resource for us. I'm going to use you as a resource. In other words, when the question